Stephen Cram CBE is a British retired track and field athlete. Along with fellow Britons Sebastian and Steve Ovett, he was one of the world's dominant middle-distance runners during the 1980s. Nicknamed the Jarrow Arrow, after his hometown, Cram set world records in the 1500 m, 2000 m and the mile during a 19-day period in the summer of 1985. He was the first man to run 1500 m under 3 minutes and 30 seconds. He won the 1,500 million gold medal at the 1983 World Championships and the 1,500 million silver medal at the 1984 Olympic Games. In 2008 Cram was appointed Chancellor of the University of Sunderland, replacing Lord Puttnam, and in 2009 elected as President of Jarrow and Hebburn Athletics Club. Cram now works as a television presenter and athletics commentator, motivational speaker and athletics coach. Athletics career: in 1980, Cram won his place in the British Olympic team after finishing in second place to Steve Ovett in the mile at Crystal Palace. The race had been marked as a run-off between Cram and Scottish miler Graham Williamson for the final place. Cram, aged 19, reached the final of the 1500 m at the 1980 Moscow Olympic Games, in which Ovett and Sebastian famously vied for the gold medal. Cram finished in 8th place. Capitalizing on his Olympic experience, Cram made his major breakthrough in 1982, a year in which and Ovett were largely absent with injuries. Cram took 1,500 million gold at the Commonwealth Games and also the 1982 European Championships in Athens, where he raced to gold after breaking from the field with 600 meters to go following Williamson's fall. Injury had disrupted Cram in the early part of the 1983 season, but he recovered in time for the 1983 World Championships in Helsinki and just prior to the Games beat in an 800 m at Gateshead. In a slow final, he strategically beat a large field following Auta's break with 500 meters to go. Ovett became trapped in the pack, ultimately finishing 4th, while Cram outkicked Steve Scott and Auta in the last 200 meters. In a remark made in Cram's presence shortly afterwards which spoke to the depth of British milers, Ovett noted that Britain was the home of the Olympic champion, world champion and world record holder in the 1500 m, titles held by Cram and Ovett respectively. At Crystal Palace later that summer, Cram won an epic mile race, in which he led Ovett by little more than a meter with 300 meters to go and maintained that lead right to the finishing line. In a 2006 interview, Cram described the race: "It was a cat-and-mouse affair, we both started off running at the back of the field. I beat him by little more than the thickness of a vest." In 1984, Cram's season was severely hampered by injury, although he recovered sufficiently to win silver in the 1500 m at the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, behind defending champion He came back stronger in 1985, a year in which he was only beaten 3 times. By at 800 m, McKean at 800 m and Ovett in a road mile. In the 800 m, not his best event, he beat the reigning 800 m Olympic champion, Joachim Cruz, in 1:42.88, the fastest time he was ever to run, off even splits of 51.2 and 51.7. He broke 3 world records within a 19-day span, and recorded a British all-comers record over the 1000 m, running 2:12.88 in windy conditions at Gateshead. He was the first man to run under 3:30.00 for the 1500 m, just beating Auta in Nice. His mile time of 3:46.32, recorded at the Bilet Stadium in Oslo, stood for 8 years and, as of 2013, is still the European record. This run was notable for the fact that this was an actual competitive race against Sebastian with the first 3 laps being by low schedule, although pretty even in pace distribution, followed by an exceptional last lap of 53.2. While the likes of and Ovett had a devastating sprint finish over the last 100 meters, Cram tended to wind up the speed gradually over the last 300 meters of races, making him very difficult to catch. However, during the 1985 season he said that he could win from any position and happily ran near the back of world-class fields before unleashing his kick, often with a lap or so to go. This tactic, his elegant, high stepping action and his effortless acceleration made him one of the most exciting middle-distance runners to watch. Cram's good form continued into the 1986 season. At the 1986 Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh, he won the 800 m, finishing 15 metres clear of Tom McKean and Peter Elliott in 1:43 and 22 seconds, still the Commonwealth Games record. He followed this up with gold in the 1500 m and was persuaded to run both events at the 1986 European Championships in Stuttgart. He arrived at the European Championships just over the edge as he suggested in David Miller's biography of Co., Born to Run. Nevertheless, he won the bronze in the 800 m having been blocked down the backstraight by Tom McKean, who made his run at the same time as Cram and, though leading into the straight, lacked the zest he showed in the Commonwealth Games and was unable to hold off the challenges of McKean and a superlative Co. Although disappointed by his 800 m defeat, Cram bounced back to beat Co to the gold medal in the 1500 m. It turned out to be not only Cram's last major medal, but the end of the golden era for British middle-distance running. In 1987, he was no longer the outstanding 1500 m athlete that he had been in previous years. Having previously been able to win races from any position and at any pace, he was now lacking confidence in his finishing speed, an area in which he had fallen behind some of his main rivals. He was beaten by Jose copyright Luis Gonzalez in the European Cup, and although he followed that with an impressive win in the 1000 m in Stockholm, and won the Dream Mile for the third year running, he finished 8th after leading into the final bend of the 1987 World Championships final in Rome. He had said before the race that his only hope of victory was a fast race, in which he could run the finish out of his opponents, in particular Abdi Bile, the eventual winner. Unhappily for Cram, the pace was slow, and he faded badly in the last 100 metres. His 1988 season saw him return to better form and he beat Bile in the Oslo Dream Mile in 1988, his fourth consecutive victory in that race. Having run impressively in the Olympic trials over 800 m and winning in 1:44.16, he was touted as one of the favourites to win the gold medal over 1500 m at the Seoul Olympics in 1988 until a calf injury just before the Games in a 1000 m race hampered his progress. The injury affected his performance at the Games and he was eliminated in the heats of the 800 m. He recovered sufficiently to reach the final of the 1500 m, but could finish only fourth in a close race surprisingly won by Peter Rono. Injury dogged him throughout his remaining years and although he continued to compete for some time, he never again looked likely to win a major championship. In the 1990 European Athletics Championships, he still finished fifth in the 1500 m, but already in the 1991 World Athletics Championships, he was eliminated in the 1500 m semi-finals. He retired from athletics in 1994 and remains the UK records holder over the mile and 2000 m. Cram is the coach of middle-distance runner Laura Waitman. In April 2014, Cram joined British Athletics as an advisor and mentor in the run-up to the 2016 Summer Olympics. Television career: Cram now works as a television presenter and athletics commentator predominantly for BBC Sport and as a motivational speaker. He starred alongside UK Olympic gold medalists Sally Gunnell and Adam Eason in BBC's 2006 primetime TV series Run for Glory, helping the runners and participants overcome psychological barriers to running the London Marathon. Cram also featured in the BBC Sport team at the 2010 Winter Olympic Games in Vancouver, commentating on curling events and presenting coverage of the closing ceremony. He was the BBC's lead commentator for the athletic events at the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. Personal life: Cram was married to Karen for many years, but they divorced in 2001 and since then he has lived with former athlete Alison Kirbishley in Northumberland. He has two children, Josie and Marcus, who have had some success in underage races. Cram had one sibling, a younger brother Kevin, who died in a fall aged 39, while out for a run in Cardiff in 2001. In August 2014, Cram was one of 200 public figures who were signatories to a letter to The Guardian opposing Scottish independence in the run-up to September's referendum on that issue. Awards: Cram was voted BBC Sports Personality of the Year in 1983. He was appointed Member of the Order of the British Empire in 1986 and Commander of the Order of the British Empire in the 2015 New Year Honours for services to sport. Personal bests. References. External links. Profile, Steve Cram Professional Sports Group, our Chancellor, Steve Cram MBE University of Sunderland.